Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? This is Jeremy Hurst from the Cayman Islands.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Okay.
Hello, Jeremy.
Okay, good to
Morning.
see Andres, Oliver, and Barry. Could I ask the other panelists to switch on their video, please? There's a little button there with a camera on it. If you could just press that so it goes green, then we'll be able to see the other panelists. And good morning, guests. I wasn't meant to be the facilitator presenter this morning, but unfortunately, everyone at LeadingRE is having muffled mic syndrome. Probably an offshoot of the COVID virus that's led to something happening internally on the computer systems. But they've asked me to carry on the conversation with the panelists that we had. So I'm hoping you can hear me. And we're going to work on the basis that you can and move forward. So obviously today we're here to talk about leading real estate companies of the world's global brokers' response to COVID-19. And obviously these are unprecedented times. So we thought it'd be useful to bring you what's going on around the world and what some of our brokerages are working on. I have with me here a number of members of the Global Advisory Board who represent you, our members globally in various regions. I won't introduce them at this point in time because I know we're tight on time, but let's roll straight into the first question that we're going to talk about personal safety and business survival. Oliver, what's your thoughts on that? What are you doing to ensure your business's survival going forward?
Thank you, Jeremy. Well, I believe strongly in the survival of the fittest. So actually, we double and tripled our efforts with pretty good results so far. We increased our marketing spendings and doing a lot of online campaigns, doing a lot of information. Yeah, I think there is an opportunity in the moment.
Okay, thanks, Oliver. Andres?
Well, we're not quite as aggressive, but we're certainly in a similar mode in Costa Rica. The market here is largely unregulated. So for us, it's a question of making sure that we're still felt, that we're still in the game, but we're playing it medium and long term, which means, you know, putting all our ducks in a row and assuming business won't be back into rhythm at least for another 4 to 6 months.
Thanks, Andres. Barry, what about South Africa? How are things going down there?
Okay, well, in South Africa, we're in lockdown, which means everybody's confined to their homes, only able to go out for essential services. Pretty much like Oliver, we've upped the online spend. We've also, because of the lockdown, our deeds office is closed, so there's no money flow from property transactions while the deeds office is closed. That has an impact on cash. So all across our businesses, we've been making very stringent checks and stress tests on our business to see that we've got the resources to last 12, 13 months without any undue pressure, making sure our agents have all their fees, and to make sure that our staff are very well protected and able to work efficiently online.
Thanks, Barry. Is Paul Samsai from Thailand on, VR Global in Thailand? Paul, are you on? Can you hear us? Okay,
yeah, I can
Paul,
hear you.
we can't see you. If you want to show yourself, press that little video button. If not, just tell us.
I actually have my button pressed, but
oh, you do?
I guess...
Okay. My apologies.
No worries. I'll play with it a little bit later. But anyway, I think Thailand's also we've also been on lockdown. In fact, many of the regions in Asia have been on lockdown for a while. I think due to the lockdown, I think a lot of I don't think, but we've actually our offices have actually closed. We're in an office building, so the entire office buildings are closed. Everybody is asked to stay inside. Only essential services are we allowed to come outside. So we've been working from home for the last 30 days. We don't use public transportation. If we have to go anywhere, we either take an Uber or Grab, or we drive. We try to avoid any type of crowd. We've been wearing masks, and we've been really communicating with our clients via our group ads, our group chats and phones and stuff like that. And we do continue to keep our online spending intact. I think that's pretty much where we kind of engage in new customers. I think because of the shutdown, people are looking, they're just looking at it on the internet, and that's pretty much where we focus our money on at this point.
Okay, thanks, Paul. I suspect a lot of us are in similar circumstances globally right now and responding similarly. Last but not least, I think we're looking for Tasos from Aristo in Cyprus and China. Tasos, are you on? And did I pronounce you correctly? You're muted, I think, Tasos. Tasos, I think you're muted. I'm not sure if you can unmute yourself. Okay. Okay, we'll come back to you later, Tasos, because I think you're either muted or at your end or on our end. We'll look at that and dive into it. So it's an interesting sort of cross section of comments there. I know Oliver, you mentioned survival of the fittest. Actually, just to let you know what we're doing in Cayman, we've taken that a step further and built a campaign on the Darwinian theory of survival. In that it's not the strongest or most intelligent that's going to win, but the group that adapts the most, the species that adapts. So we've actually developed, or our marketing team, I should say, Stuart Wright, our marketing guru, came up with a new mantra for us, which was innovate, adapt, and excel. And we've been using that as a marketing theme, both internally to our team, because I think obviously one of the biggest challenges at the moment is to keep your team motivated, give them the hope and direction that this is going to move in a positive way at some point. And then of course it's a great message externally as well. So we've been using that message in our advertising, our social media campaigns. We even took a full back page on the last issue of the newspaper that was circulated, just to send the message out that we're here, that we're adapting, and that we're going to continue to do business. So I think very much in line with what everyone says, there's an opportunity here for us to do that globally as part of Leading Real Estate Companies the World Group. Okay, so how has, let's start with Barry on this, reverse. How have your staff worked together? Have they been working from home? How's social distancing affected what you've done logistically, Barry?
Jeremy, it's a very good question. As you know, I might have told you that 2 years ago we started building remote teams and remote capabilities. So everything's changed, but nothing's changed at all, except we can't actually see our clients. So we're using all the mechanisms we can to communicate with them. But during this time, we're really upskilling our staff, motivational speakers on webinars, fixed schedules, lots and lots of training, lots and lots of tips every single day. 1 tip a day, all the skills that they require to survive the new world. You say that it's the team that adapts and is the most agile that's going to prosper, and we see that. We've geared ourselves accordingly. I'm able to meet with my teams right around the country without getting on flights, which we didn't usually do. We love connecting and being around each other, but this has changed things. And yeah, we more than ever able to communicate, and our engagement amongst each other is much higher. From an agent's point of view to their clients, they more talking about how they can assist clients trying to find those needs, set down those appointments for when we come out of lockdown. Our tech guys are designing methods for clients to do their own photographs and fill in the right necessary compliance documents for us to list their properties digitally, so we can do that. They then comply. So those are the kind of things that we're doing, really innovative stuff to try and make sure that we can be as flexible and as adaptable as possible to meet the client's needs.
That's great, Barry. It makes a lot of sense. Tasos, have you by any chance got your volume sorted? Let's try you again. Do you know sign language by any chance? No? Okay. Okay. I think we get what you're feeling. Okay. Paul, across to you.
I think in terms of how we're coping, as I kind of mentioned, we've been on lockdown, and that also means that we're not allowed to see our customers even if we wanted to. We're just kind of preparing ourselves for the future when all this blows away. We're hoping to really hit the ground running. We have morning calls on a regular basis, on a daily basis every morning. So that's how we kind of keep in contact with each other in terms of our staff, our operations, and our sales. Personally, as a company, we don't let, we don't tell our agents that, hey, you need to go out. I mean, I don't want to be responsible for anything that happens, but we let them kind of do what they need to do, just simply because, I mean, it's really trying times at this point, and everybody's kind of at a standstill. We're operating here maybe at about a 20% maximum capacity throughout all industries, so we try to cope as best as we can, and we just kind of feel that we just need to be safe for this time being.
Yeah, understood. I think we all feel like that in many ways. Paul, thank you. Andres, over to you. What's your thoughts on this one?
Thanks, Jeremy. Well, likewise, priority number one is health and safety. So one aspect I think that's kind of overlooked is that the health has to include mental health, and especially for our agents that are used to keeping a very fast pace and a lot of meetings and a lot of calls, and they can often be just reactionary. They have to switch gears. So one of the things that we've been focusing on, and actually our priority since 2 weeks ago, is simply telling everyone on the team, have the conversations. So have the conversations within the team, have the conversations with your clients. Like, that's what you're used to, that's what you're comfortable with. That's what'll eventually help the relationships maintain until we can do business, and it'll keep you mentally healthy. So our priority right now, because we have to simplify, because this can get overwhelming very easy, our priority has been just focus on the conversations. Keep the conversations going, or start the conversations that you're not having because you're not running into clients on the street, or you're not setting up the meetings because they're calling you all the time for showings, because that's just not happening. So keep the conversation going, and that's the way that that we can all keep some kind of mental health and yet keep the business afloat, or at least ready to kick into gear once we can get back out on the street.
Yeah, that's great points, Andres. And agents need something to do and need something to focus on. So certainly don't leave them kicking their heels. Excellent points. Thanks. Oliver, what's going on in Germany on your side of it?
I have no clue what's going on in Germany because I live in Switzerland. No,
I know.
Yes, that's a very, very different thing. And
I apologize. That's like calling a Scotsman an Englishman. I do apologize.
Yeah, but we had another 50 years to get like each other again. So in Switzerland, we are actually in a different situation. We don't have a lockdown. We have a semi-lockdown, which basically means that the government asks the people to stay at home, but they don't force them. So all the sales shops and barber shops, I'm sorry for that, are closed. On the other hand, like offices like ours or banks are still operating. We are asked to let our people work at home, and we try to do that. After about 24 hours, it was possible that everybody worked from home. So what happened in the last few days, first I was here alone with one member of the marketing team, and now more people come in. I think they try to run away from their homes after a while, but we keep here social distancing and try to keep things running. I don't, it's a crisis, and I don't want to sound too happy about it, but in my little team, I just have 12 people here. I never had a better spirit. They are so nice with each other and with me and the clients. I never have experienced that in my career before. And if there is one good thing out of all of that, and we can take that into the future, that would be just amazing.
Oliver, that's a great point. And by the way, I look forward to your German expansion as a company as you move forward. So, yeah, well, I can say a lot of similarities in the Cayman Islands, and we are on full lockdown now. The strategy that Cayman Islands have had with its government, and we very much are run like a big corporation here because of the size of us, we're very small, was total lockdown from the start. We shut our borders from 4 weeks ago, shut the cruise ship industry down. And our goal is to flatten the curve and shorten the curve, because we can see ourselves coming out the other side of it. But that does mean, to say, as you both referred to, it can create some social problems. We're used to being together. We're very, very socially positive community. We love gathering. We love getting together. To be able to staying at homes on sometimes hard curfews. For example, yesterday nobody was allowed to go out unless it was a real emergency and a medical emergency, is challenging. That said, I think we see that being a short-term cost and hopefully a medium and long-term win. What it has done, like some of you mentioned, is brought our team closer, funnily enough. We have irregular sales meetings, team meetings, and frankly, our conference room is not a good location for them. We can't fit in the conference room these days. So we've gone to a Zoom meeting format since the start of this event, and we are having more productive team meetings than we've ever had. And I can tell you, our intention is to keep those team meetings going through Zoom and not bring them back into our conference room as we move forward. Everyone seems to be a lot more focused and enjoying themselves a lot more on them. So I think there's great opportunities here to actually increasing the strength of our teams as opposed to weakening as we go forward. So I just want to reinforce some of the things you have said there. So is there going to be a rebound? Well, I guess there is. How are each of you preparing for that rebound when it comes? So Tesos, any chance you can speak to us?
Yeah,
okay, wow. Okay, third time lucky.
For a reason, I wasn't allowed to unmute my mic, but now it's all fine, so I can finally communicate with you guys. Well, a rebound will be more than welcome in this unprecedented and extreme situation that we're all going through. Our sector, real estate, I mean, has gone through turbulence various times, but now the weird thing is that things are blocked not because there's not enough money in the market or because the interest rates or the market is saturated, but because we had to force to lock down, or some of us holistically and some others partly. But the problem is that there is a cascading effect everywhere. Well, a rebound effect, in my own views, from a country like Cyprus that attracts a lot of foreign direct investment, can only come back to a normal pace as soon as the borders reopen. Definitely, hearing to all of you sharing some brilliant ideas, we all need to take the extra mile now, and we all need to do things to keep our operations alive and vivid, not just alive. And just to make a recap on everything you have exchanged between you guys, we are a group that even in our home here in Cyprus, everything gets back to normal tomorrow, which anyway, and dear Oliver, we are not in a holistic lockdown either here in Cyprus. However, the government has proceeded with some very targeted measurements from the very beginning, and thankfully we have the situation controlling. We can see the new cases of the COVID diminishing every single day, so we are in good course. However, since we are also a country that depends on foreign direct investment mostly, if everything gets back to normal tomorrow, still people cannot travel, and still people are not prepared to make every decision or make every investment virtually. On the other hand, we are a group, because we maintain operations in China, Vietnam, Dubai, UK, Greece, Cairo, and many other parts of the world. We have been prepared, and we have invested into technology quite heavily. And this is offering us now the opportunity to operate by 90% remotely. We used to do that in the past. And it seems that it's working. As we said, dear Jeremy, it is very much productive because people are focused, they follow a consistent plan, and it really seems that it's working. Now, my greatest concern about the rebound is the fact that this thing is having a lot of cascading effects, and still we don't know where the bottom is, and this is the greatest concern. On the other hand, we do know that real estate is an investment that people will mostly seek primarily before stepping into stocks and more lucrative investments or investments that can give them a higher IRR. Don't forget that people over this period, especially with China, that we have been living this scenario for the last 3-4 months already. These people are bleeding severely. They lost a lot of money. Trillions of dollars have been already vaporized, and this is the biggest question mark: how the market will really come back into normal tracks.
Thanks, Tesos. That's great insight. Barry, rebound in South Africa, what's that going to look like? Barry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I didn't hear the question. You just faded there for a while.
No problem. The rebound in South Africa, what's that going to look like?
Well, there's so many question marks. I mean, you know, our economy wasn't at its best state before we went into Corona. We didn't have huge reserves in our coffers. So it's going to be challenging. And I think there's going to be a big shift in property prices. We're going to see those property prices change. Our one advantage is our interest rates are relatively high compared to the rest of the world. So there's quite a lot of room for movement there. We do believe there will be pent-up demand. Our agents are at this stage busy building those relationships, finding out the stress levels of their customers and what are they going to do, because we're expecting quite a lot of retrenchments and unemployment after this due to the shutdown, which has paralyzed the economy. The real estate industry in South Africa is the second biggest contributor to the GDP, and it's a big sector. So we've appealed as an industry to make it an essential service, pretty much like the NAR has done in the US.
Thanks, Barry. Paul, in Thailand, how are you preparing for this rebound as a group?
Well, I think we're preparing in such a fashion that we're actually trying to convert as much of our properties into virtual tours. We're actually going in, me myself going into the home specifically, trying to take virtual pictures, virtual tours of these properties and bring them online. I think that's kind of how we're preparing. You know, everything's kind of slow. Nobody wants to do anything. Nobody wants to show homes. So we've taken it upon ourselves to prepare and do right now is take a lot of our properties online by using virtual tours. Companies like a Matterport that we've, you know, luckily when I came here to Thailand on this last trip, we brought a Matterport camera. So we're able to go out there and put some of these technologies in place so that, you know what, the seller itself really don't want to open the house to anybody. So now we can actually open the house for them without even, you know, anybody stepping foot. So we're using technology to the best that we can. I think somebody else alluded to is using technology as their base. We've always had a lead management platform that we develop on our own, and we continue to develop, and we continue to comb and modify this. I mean, we know it's kind of slow, so that we take this opportunity to try to bulk up on some of the things that we think is going to help us in the future. You know, we're having a lot of our team go in and kind of not put together, but kind of solidify our social media, our Facebook, our Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, kind of solidify, you know, all the information that we wanted to do in the past. Now we actually have the opportunity to do something like that. It's all about, for us, going online. It's, you know, we're trying to do that. I think virtual tours, obviously the biggest impact that we're going to have. Not too many people do it, so we're introducing it on the platform here in Thailand, and we're all gung-ho about trying to, when the rebound occurs, to really open up the doors and let the people in. We're anticipating a really big bang when things get all open and everybody gets to travel again. And we're engaging in conversations right now with different countries. I know that some of our big investors are China, so we're trying to, you know, pre-communicate with them on what we're doing. We're trying to share the information that we have, as well as other countries. So we're doing our best to try to stay safe and still, you know, try to prepare for the next shift of waves to come.
Thanks, Paul. Oliver, what about yourselves? What are you up to?
To be perfectly honest, I didn't really understand the point to rebounds. Is it more like the setback, the English term, or?
No, how do we prepare for the growth that might happen in the markets after COVID, potentially, assuming it.
Okay, I got it. Well, to be honest, I don't believe they're going to be a very big growth soon. So, we broke the line in Switzerland, but until we get back to normal, if it's late summer, I'm very happy. But even I don't believe that it's going to be like it was before. I think there are going to be no football games. There are going to be no big events, not in this year. So I expect it actually to be very slow getting back to normal. So what we do, yes, we also do virtual tour. Actually, we did that for the last 5 years for every object, but nobody really cared. So what we do now since 19 days is like we educate people as good as we can about what are their opportunities. And this started actually in the big marketplaces, like the listing sites where we put in pictures showing the Metaport view, just that people noticed, because a little button on the end didn't do the trick. We updated our texts. We included in every email. So every email goes out to a client now includes also the 3D tour with a natural link. We trained our staff, so I forced my people not just to use Zoom or go to meetings. They also use now FaceTime and WhatsApp chat, because a lot of our clients are actually not really able to install Zoom on their machines of security restrictions or restrictions of their personality. So we try to communicate on all fronts and learn to find other connection to people. And actually, that's a hard thing to do. And I think we need the time. But what I see now is like old people, which are barely was able to use a phone 2 weeks ago, are now perfectly capable of doing a video chat with you. And that's probably the way forward.
Absolutely. So preparing for the new norm, very much so, by the sound of it. Okay, Andres, from your side.
Thank you, Jeremy. Great points. On the technology side, this wasn't something I was going to bring up, but now that I hear everyone talking about the virtual tours, we've been on the fence for a while how far to take this, because we deal with the top 0.001% of the luxury homes, and they have a lot of security risk here in Costa Rica. So we shied away from Matterport and all the extensive kind of more involved 3D tours, and we work with highly edited pictures and video. So now we're still on the fence. We can't decide whether we need to take that last step or not. What we have is good enough for an agent to get on the phone and walk through a series of pictures and tell the story, and maybe go through the video, while pausing, and that might be good enough. So it's not, for us, it's not so much a technology issue. It's okay, will all that extra effort, give us that extra step that we need. So that's one thing based on what I heard from the panelists. And I have 3 other comments to make. The first is our pipeline got shut off, and when that happened, we said, well, like everyone else, we use some expletives and some other words. But basically what we saw was we had 1 week when everything just froze, and then we've had a few other weeks where new people have started contacting us. So things that were in the pipeline, either early stages or even during contract or post-contract, things that we had there that just froze, those kind of just went away, but new things are coming in. So and certainly the volume is a lot less, but what we're trying to figure out is, okay, it's the same, but it's less, but it's different, right? So we're getting new contacts, and people are interested in seeing a property or now suddenly interested in selling their homes, but it's different. The reasoning is different. So the business will still need to, buy, sell homes and buy, sell land. But what we see is that the reasoning and the way they come to the final decision of whether to go see the properties or sell their property is a little bit different. So we need to focus the next few weeks on trying to have a mechanism to better understand that reasoning, which we don't. The second one is, and I think Tassos mentioned this, or perhaps Barry, was the filters. So now that a showing is suddenly going to be, even past this first stage, higher risk for health and safety, we need to have more filters in place. And this is great. Like, this is part of what every brokerage works on your agents. Don't waste time, make the proper filters, have all the phone conversations and meetings that you need to before investing the presence, the physical presence of a showing. And now there's more weight behind those processes. So I think it's good to reinforce with the agents, not just on education, but on the value of it. Of, hey, we need to be doing all of this before a showing that we needed to do before, but all of a sudden it's even more important, and you have fewer arguments against it. And the third one is because the industry here is very unregulated and coming out of the, if there is a bounce back, we want to be a few steps ahead also in terms of procedure and protocols. So one of the things that we're trying to do is, because we're not getting guidelines directly from an association or realtor or like other organizations in other countries, we get very little feedback. So one of the things that we're doing is we're preparing this week to roll out our own guidelines and make them public for buyers, for sellers, for tenants, for agents, on everything that we know so far that we could do. If we're past stage 1 and we actually can leave our homes, okay, what are the rules? How are we willing to play this? And what we're trying to do is engage that conversation with everyone. And sure, it'll have to be updated in the process, but I think that'll be a key for the bounce back, is how safe will your clients take your processes or your ideas to be in terms of how you get to the market? Like, do you have the protocols? Are you giving them the information? And are you educating them of what it could look like as well?
Andres, that's very interesting. I'll talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in Cayman, and frankly, coming at the end, everything that you've been talking about as best practices are things that we've adopted as well. The Matterport cameras, the virtual tours, making sure that, as Oliver says, that people are aware that we have these options available to them, leading our clients to this new norm that the world is going to have to adopt to recover. Just a couple of quick examples of where we've been successful with that we weren't expecting. One of our lead agents on the luxury side, my partner there, James Bryan, had a buyer who was looking to rent an executive home initially, show them a property using his FaceTime on his iPad, and did literally a walk around virtual tour. We closed in executive rental at close to $20,000 US per month, with the option to buy once Cayman opens up again. So that's a luxury example. And then perhaps an even more surprising example from my side on the commercial side. We had someone who'd been looking in Cayman for probably about a year now, and was in the process of about to press the button on buying a commercial building. And we thought that deal was dead until about a week and a half ago, when he called us up and said, "Hey, I've done all the preliminary work in Cayman. I love the idea. I think you're going to rebound quickly." He said, "And what I need now is," I said, "I need income from my capital. So I'd like to actually move the purchase forward. So can we do this immediately?" So, and at this point, we've not even aggressively negotiated the price, had to aggressively negotiate the price down. So we're about to move towards contract on that deal. I'm very hopeful that will close because of this circumstance, because right now he's not getting income out of other sources. So so there is light there, but as I think we're all saying, if we adapt and use technology, there's opportunities. It will just be different opportunities and potentially slower, of course. So we've got some questions from the audience. Yes,
Jeremy,
sorry.
let me add here something. Something we haven't talked about. I think it's important for all of us. So actually, all this time, our agent is now in lockdown or semi-lockdown. It doesn't matter. So the most value thing we actually can do is data mining. So I ask my staff to go through every person we had to had contact in the last year. We check up if their addresses are clean. We separate them if they are wrong. We go through all their conversation of the last year, and then we call them up, getting into a chat, update their search profile to actually be able to get even better results for them in the future. And the funny part is, I don't know if you had done these calls lately by yourself, but people normally not so happy if you call them up and say, "Hi, I'm a real estate agent." Nowadays, they're very happy that they can talk with a real person at all, and the conversations are much more open, much more longer, and it really helps us to understand our customers. So we plan to make as many calls as we are able to in the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Oliver, absolutely great points.
Please Jeremy,
just
if you don't mind, if I just add on Oliver's comment. I mean, being a developers that we mostly and primarily we focus on B2B channels. By about 95% of our annual turnover is coming from our partners globally. This is indeed, Oliver, something that we are experiencing very vividly over the last at least a month. I mean, most of our trusted partners, they do spend a lot of time talking to their people, to their leads, to their contacts, to leads they have generated in the past, and they have rejuvenated them in a way. And we see that they need a lot of support by providing them virtual tools. Of course, it is a tool, but what they need mostly is accurate information and instant information where the market stands and how they can talk to their own potential investors. And because we do keep statistics, data now in nowadays, it is more expensive than anything and more valuable than anything. We can see that indeed they spend about twice time as much as they used to do by talking to each of their own leads. So maybe this is a remedy, maybe not to build up and gain back our losses. I mean, what we're losing now might not come back into our pockets, but we have to capitalize by learning the new era, because it seems that things will change.
Thanks. That's a great point as well. Just one quick point to your point on data mining, Oliver. What we've tried to do is to make this whole process a bit more fun and competitive. We offered our team a bottle of Krug champagne for the first one to get to a target, and got them all going for that. And even those who didn't get to the Krug level, we gave a bottle of Verve to who got it to a certain level with the number of new contacts they entered into their CRM. So I think there's an opportunity here for us to let our agents enjoy ourselves and play on that competitive edge as well. Questions from the audience here, a couple of important ones I'd like to go to. Okay, what is going to be the biggest change we see come into our business due to the COVID crisis? Thank you, whoever submitted that. Barry, the biggest.
I think the way the consumer deals with us in the future. I think this, particularly in South Africa, and my business is a little bit different to Oliver's. We've got 1,300 people spread out amongst 168 offices around the entire country. So, you know, we don't get to see the people as often. This allows us to see the people as often as we can now. I can be in an agent's office, 3 offices in one day, and 2,000 kilometers apart from each other, and inspire them and work with their leaders, etc. We focus them on all the stuff that we're talking about now, virtual tours and all that. That's important. The biggest change that we're going to have, I think, short term, is a huge drop off in transactions. I think we won't do more than 20% of the budgeted transactions this month, and I think it'll creep up. And maybe by September, we'll start seeing that thriving stage again, where that pent-up demand kicks in. At the moment, it's keeping our guys busy, keeping them in front of our customers, making sure that they're building the databases, all the general things. But the customers in the future are going to remember the people who were caring about them, not knowing who they were at this time. And that's a huge opportunity for our brand, which is mind and heart to connect with people. And the biggest community change I think we're going to see is perhaps the football stars and the heroes on the world champion boxers are no longer going to be the absolute heroes. Perhaps doctors and firemen and policemen might be big heroes in our community again.
Great point, Baron. I wholeheartedly agree. This is a massive opportunity for our brand, for leading real estate companies in the world, and for our members to take the lead on this. Paul, your thoughts on what the biggest change is going to be in your market after COVID, resulting from COVID?
I think our biggest change is really on technology. I mean, everybody here on the panel talked about beefing up their technology, doing data mining, doing virtual tours. That's really the biggest change. I mean, we consider ourselves a little behind maybe the US in terms of technology. We don't have a lot of the technologies that many of the other countries have. But because of the COVID, I think we're forced to kind of change that model a little bit. I mean, we have group calls, we have on a daily basis, where we now, instead of having meetings, we use technology to communicate. I'm in here in Bangkok, and I can communicate with our sales and our staff all over Thailand. Just simply, you know, they don't have to come here anymore. And that's kind of nice, to be quite honest with you. Meetings are a lot quicker, where everybody's straight to the point. We don't swerve. I think that's, you know, something that maybe we'll just kind of keep it going on this frontier. I think because of technology and because of the lack of calls that we're getting, I think Oliver, you said data mining is something that we're focused on. You know, we tell our people is, hey, you know, follow up on the calls now, because they used to call before and we never called them back, or we forget to call them back. And now's your opportunity to call them back and re-engage in that conversation. So we use that technology to try to remind us that, hey, you know, we still have customers that once upon a time called us, and they probably called us for something or another regarding real estate, and maybe we forgot or we dropped the ball, and now's not the time. I think we have to go back to doing the core things that make people successful, and that's what we're doing right now.
Thanks, Paul. Tassos, the biggest change from Cyprus?
Well, a lot of the things that my esteemed co-panelists are sharing are my own views as well. Undeniably, technology steps a foot for real in our lives. Although we have all been using it heavily, it seems that now it's more useful than ever. And unfortunately, we can see that human species are not the only ones that can perform dollars. I mean, machines and technology has to come more in our lives and in our even micromanagement business. And we can see this happening. And since we have all became global, we all need to adapt to this new era. Now, what will change, I believe, is that people will have less confidence and less trust to their regimes and to their government and administrations, because we can see a lot of those nations failing, and maybe that would be a good spark for people to go back to basics. And I believe that real estate will have a good opportunity to stand out again and prove that it's a trustful investment globally for any investor, as long as they do it wisely.
Thanks. Great comments. We've had a couple of questions about the effect this might have on buying, selling property in dense, congested urban areas versus rural areas, maybe the suburbs even. Do you see a trend for urban areas becoming less attractive? Or one question, I think we have one of our members from New York on, saying that if we have any, will buyers still be interested in New York, and will someone who's actually got a property there now be more interested in selling? Your thoughts on that from an urban-rural point of view, or perhaps even from the perspective of someone like the Cayman Islands, which is small and isolated. I'm not here to plug for them, but you know, if we develop a different type of product in terms of safety, is that something that will be more attractive? Oliver, your thoughts on that generally?
Well, Switzerland is also pretty small, as you know. My general thought on that is two sides. One is the whole country as once. So wherever we had a crisis in the last few decades, actually a lot of capital moved into Switzerland, because it was always a safe haven. And if I look at this crisis, it's not much different than the one before. In the end, it's a capital game. It's like all this country have now huge programs, but the question is, can they afford that? And if they can't, who will pay it in the end? So I expect actually that we will see a stronger movement into Switzerland for whom can afford it. So in the country itself, our suburbs and the main areas, actually I'm pretty positive for the crowded areas, the big cities, because there's a lot of pressure to live there, and there's just very few real estates available. In the urban areas, there is still a lot of potentials, and I'm not sure if they can hold their price levels. It's going to be also the areas which are going to be hit the most from whatever going to come in the next few months.
Okay, thanks. Andreas, your thoughts? So it's going to be a boom for second home havens with universal healthcare, or better healthcare possibly? I don't know how Costa Rica stacks up in this sense.
Well, hopefully it is, but I'll blend my answer with the previous question as well, which was what's the biggest impact? And I think for us, we deal in the residential market, so primary and secondary, but mostly primary homes. So I think the biggest shift, and what we're considering now and what we've been talking to our clients about, is how they're reevaluating the meaning of home. This changes all their decision process. So now all of a sudden you're living in your house 24/7, you're sharing it with your family. You know, that little part of the house that bothered you before, it can really bother you now, or it can be great. Now all of a sudden you realize, oh, that's why I needed that little terrace or that little balcony. So I think that the biggest change and the opportunity and the shift right now is that people are changing their decision process. They may come to the same conclusion, I don't think so, but such a mass shift in perception of what do I really want? What's a priority in my home? And the longer this plays out, in our country or in others, but the longer this plays out, the more significant the change will be in terms of how I evaluate my home. And this creates such an opportunity because all of a sudden we can have much deeper conversations about what do you really need, not what do you want, what do you really need. And I think to the question of New York and are people going to move out of the cities, here we've had more interest in homes that are large independent estates or homes, you know, the last few weeks versus, hey, I want to move into a particular condominium that has all these, you know, social areas that are communal and that I can take advantage of, kind of like what you have in the cities with buildings. But the big change, the big shift is simply going to be the perspective. You know, the meaning of home now changes significantly, and it creates great opportunity for those of us focused on the residential market.
Thanks a lot. That's great. So I've got a quote I'd like to read from, I believe it's Chris and Paul collectively on behalf of the team. They'd obviously love to be here, and they send their apologies. They'll figure this out for the next webinar. But I'm going to just read their closing words, and I'd like each of your input on these because it deals with our strength as a network and our value as a network. They said that we are meant to connect, and we are, of course, stronger than ever, but separated today by circumstances outside of our sphere of influence. But we are more united than ever. For now, our main strength is to be apart, but our promise still stands, the promise of Leading Real Estate comes to the world. Together we stand stronger. Together we connect great minds like ours and those who are attending this webinar. And together we will create a better future and more business for us all. So that, I believe, came from Chris and Paul collectively. So your thoughts on where Leading Real Estate Companies in the world fits into this and how we can leverage this great network to become stronger and better as we move forward. Starting with Paul.
Actually, leading real estate companies in the world is actually a really, really, really great network. I mean, even before joining the company, you know, I've traveled to many countries and visited many parts of the world, and I've kind of been cloning myself as kind of a global realtor in such a fashion. But since joining, you know, LeadingRE, it's actually became a little tighter niche. I mean, it's where else can you go in terms of this network? I can travel all over the world, and there's always somebody to meet and greet you. There's always a friend in every country, in every town that you go. The network is just getting stronger and stronger, and I think this you know, pandemic is that really even tightening the network even stronger. We all support each other. I think we want everybody to do well, and we want encourage everybody to be safe. And I think it's only going to get better. I mean, again, where else in the world can you be on a network and you can go to any parts of the world and still have a friend to have a cup of coffee? And that's the platform that LeadingRE gives me.
And go virtually as well as physically these days. So, of course, Barry, your thoughts on that? You touched on it earlier. I know you're passionate about what we do. Yeah,
I'm very passionate about it. I mean, what Paul said is exactly right. It's not about me, it's about we, and I think that power of sharing from different countries around the world, where we can share ideas, differences in markets, encourage each other, and even from a friendship. This is a community of like-minded, very bright people, and it's an absolute privilege to be part of it. And together we'll get through all the changes, and we always have. And this is just going to be another one of those things that we're going to look at and say, wow, these are the things we did, and look, we came out better and stronger and ready to go for the way the world needs us, and makes us more relevant as real estate agents to our consumers. And I think because we have both the luxury and the LeadingRE side of the business, which tie in, and now the commercial side. It covers end-to-end real estate, and that is absolutely magnificent to see.
Thanks, Barry. Taisos.
Well, in very few words, I mean, ancient Greeks used to say strength in unity. I mean, unity now is more important than ever. And let's put things down on a very simple perspective. Why are we all suffering? Because we are all locked down. We are cut off in a way from each other. And we can see that the only way forward to get together is not to expect any subsidies from the governments. Although in my country, we have been lucky enough after the latest economic crisis that we have managed to recover pretty well. The government had reserves. It's supporting unemployment. It's injecting billions into the economy. But this cannot fuel you for lifetime. I mean, we need to restart, and by joining forces, I think now is more important than ever. And again, sharing some facts with you. For us, being a real estate developer that has spread its operations far and wide, we make profits. We are one of the biggest employers in the country. We employ people because we have managed to build a network that can help us sell our products globally. And being a part of a strong global network, it is more, and it's going to become more important than ever.
Oliver, your thoughts?
Well, survival of the fittest. That's also true for LeadingRE. I mean, that's the time where we refined the purpose of the network. I think now it's key that we help each other by any business we can do, but also help each other by sharing marketing materials, technologies, and keeping each other in the loop. So I strongly believe we're going to manage that and get out stronger.
Thanks, Oliver. Andres, last comment.
Sure, I see it on two different sides. On one side, on the luxury side, I think it gives us perspective, not just the webinars, for example, but the individual conversations with other partners of what are they going through, because in some ways they're ahead, and sometimes I feel like, oh no, we went through that like 3 weeks ago, you know, and you should consider this because you'll get to this point. And, you know, so anything that can speed up information and decision making right now is so valuable. And having such a large network obviously provides that. It's a great complement to what we need to do locally in our communities, you know, with all the other partners that we have. But being able to stretch that out among such a large base, and you know, feel like you're part of something bigger and everyone's contributing is certainly so valuable now that change is such a constant.
Absolutely, Andres. Well, thank you all so much for those final thoughts and all of your comments right the way through. I hope you were able to be heard by the attendees. I'm sure you were. I know we managed to answer a few questions. I'm sure we weren't able to get more participation. I think we're probably going to rerun this webinar a little further down the road as an update in terms of what's going on. I'd just like to add to my comments. I'm so proud and happy at this point in time to be a member of such a tremendous network. I mean, I really think this is not only going to help us in terms of our global footprint, but also locally in our markets to become the realtor of choice, the advisor of choice, and what are very difficult times, taking our global knowledge and bring it down to the local level. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Chris to close the webinar. I'd like us to all stay safe, stay well, look after ourselves, and look forward to the days that we can get our hair trimmed in a little more detail. Okay. Yeah. Thanks to all. And Chris, if you could sign us up. Okay. Take care, guys.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.